Hey everybody, I'm Nobody. I want to take some more time and talk about Iran, mostly because I want it to be very clear and on the record of why I feel like we didn't make the right kinds of moves with regard to handling Iran and their desire for nuclear power. So I want to be on record for that. So we're going to talk about it some more, and I'm going to talk about military leadership and how we plan. And it's an acronym I'm going to talk about. It's called PMISI PT. I don't know if we still use that acronym or not. I've been out of the military for a little while, but I'm going to talk through that. And if you want to hear more, by all means, stay on and or look for me on Facebook and watch my whole version. But I'm Nobody. Be strong, love thy neighbor, and together I know we can do better. Nobody out. So for those sticking around, I'll show you what PMISI PT is. And you can see it's a long list of letters. It stands for political, military, economic, social, information, infrastructure, physical environment, and time. And the military officials, they utilize this as an analytical tool, as a starting point to assess and define defense and military environments. And Iran would be a military environment, and that environment just isn't in the area around Iran, but it goes outward and to all things affected, and it's really global. So I'm going to talk about those. So we've got our political aspects and we can know that politics plays a big part. And what's the first thing we did is we went in and we tried to affect their leadership and took out their supreme leader. And the end result, I think our hopes was that the Iranians would rise up and fight against the regime and take it over, and we would have regime change. But that didn't happen. Now the son's in charge, and we killed his dad, and so there are factors there to consider. So that would be an example of political. Another example from our side, political, we would be our message from our own government is that we should be happy that we're paying high gas prices because the alternative would the United States would be leveled right now and we'd all be dead. Well, I don't believe that. I believe that Iran wanted military or nuclear capability because they wanted the deterrent, a nuclear deterrent. And it really makes no sense because if Iran had attacked the United States with a nuclear weapon, if we really think about how would that end? Now, one, they barely have the capability. They don't have the range. And even if by some miracle they could get past our our shield that we have, our defensive shield around the United States, um, say they got one through. Well, that could be catastrophic for a very small region, but what would be the end result? How would we respond? We would respond to them in kind and 10 times worse. And we want to talk about decimation and obliterate. Um, there would be no Iran left. So why would an Iranian leader want to attack the United States with a weapon system of which he knows we have 1,000 times more, probably a thousand times more capability to level their country? He wouldn't do that. He wouldn't do it unless he's suicidal. And I don't think I think leaders are selfish enough and care about themselves enough that they wouldn't do that. So there's the political side. Infrastructure is big. We look at the infrastructure, which is things like water and sewage and their communications technology, telephone systems, radio, and all those things. And the infrastructure is huge. We can't just take out their electrical because their electrical is connected to their social. Well, how could the electrical be connected to social? Well, their activities of going to the store, listening to the news, and fixing dinner. Imagine going 5 days without any electricity. A lot of people have not experienced that, and it certainly would disrupt your social activities. Economics. It's not just about disrupting Iran's economic abilities to rebuild and continue their nuclear enrichment facilities and all those. It's looking at the economics of the rest of the world. Our actions there with Iran has disrupted the entire planet. Everywhere is disrupted, and just look at here at home. Gas prices have come down a little bit, but holy smokes. I was out by the interstate and diesel fuel was almost $7 a gallon in Indiana, almost $7 a gallon. And, people will say, well, it was still higher under Biden. I don't care who it was higher under. I don't want to pay $7 a gallon for diesel. So you can blame it on whoever, but it's the problem now and where we're at, and I think it's how we got here. So we look at those aspects, and information ties in with their telephone, and the whole point of talking about these is they're all interconnected. It's a web, an interconnected web of all of these things that we look at, and we have in our organization, we have experts that dig deep and they look at, if we do this, this is how it's going to affect my area. This is how it's going to affect infrastructure. This is how it's going to affect our ability to communicate with them. Have we knocked out their internet? It's not just about them communicating with themselves, as we want to be able to communicate with the people and send messages, propaganda, and we want to be able to change and influence their government and so forth. So those are big pieces. And then the last one is time. Pete Hegseth, I think because of his inexperience, I think he miscalculated time. I went to a school, it's called Command and Staff College. And when you're a major, that's where you go. You learn how to be a good staff officer, and it prepares you then for command time. And he made it the major, but for my research, I couldn't find anywhere where he had attended this school. And when I participated in the school, I found it very interesting that a lot of the people that were there, very competent, very talented infantrymen and tankers and the armor guys and cav guys, and they definitely understood the tactical aspects, but they didn't seem to have the knack for looking at the broader picture, looking at things like logistics and operational reach and those kinds of factors. And they just wanted to get it done. It's like, look, we know what's going to work. We're going to go in there. We're going to destroy them. We're going to prep the battlefield, and we're going to put forces, the paratroopers in there, and we're going to seize the ground, and it's going to be beautiful. And I feel like Pete Hegseth, that's the way he was thinking on this, And when I talk about our military, I'm not talking bad against our soldiers and their leaders. I have spent 23 years in the military, and I have full confidence in our military. Where I lack the confidence is when Pete Hegseth went in there and he told his generals, that you can either be the Department of War, or you can join the Department of Woke. Which one do you want to be? Because if you join the one, you're out of here. And so if you're firing everybody who speaks up and says, sir, we're looking at economic and social and political and infrastructure and time, and what you're trying to do is not going to work. If your answer is, you're fired, give me somebody in here who'll do what I want. And if that's I don't know if that's how he led or not, but it certainly looked like that at Quantico when he was beating down his generals and his highest ranking and experienced NCOs. So, and that's why I feel the way I do about this is I don't think they looked at PMISI PT and looked at the broader and bigger picture and how interconnected all those things are and how they affect each other. So I'm going to finish with a note. One of my a friend of mine gave me this, and she's been very supportive of me of running for office. And she feeds me some stuff to help kind of encourage me. And she gave me, this is just a little note here that it's out of a book. It says Living with Christ, and the article looks like it's Wisdom from Our Friends by Pope Francis. And he's not the Pope now, but he was the Pope. And this is from 2021. And I just want to leave you with this to ponder and mull over. Ancient conflicts, though long buried, are breaking out anew, while instances of a myopic, extremist, resentful, and aggressive nationalism are on the rise. In some countries, a concept of popular and national unity, influenced by various ideologies, is creating new forms of selfishness and a loss of the social sense under the guise of defending national interests. Defending national interest, and that's a lot of what we're getting from our current government. Is everything we do is we're defending our interests, and I'll leave you with this little quote for me is that fear is a very powerful propaganda tool, because when we are afraid, we cannot make logical decisions. It's like people in a fire in a building. Nobody's thinking about how we can take turns and get out the door. It's every man for themselves, and they're piling over each other trying to get the heck out of the building and only thinking with fear. So that's where I'm hoping we can go from there forward and maybe make better decisions. I'm nobody. Be strong. Love thy neighbor. And together, I know we can do better. Nobody out.